Now, Lowcountry Forever, a public affairs presentation of the Charleston Radio Group.
The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday is coming up, celebrated this year on January the 18th, and part of the celebration being sponsored by the Charleston YWCA. And joining us on Lowcountry Forever is LaVanda Brown, who is the Executive Director. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
The celebration that goes on here in Charleston, people may not realize, one has a long history dating back to 1972 and is one of the largest, if not the largest one that goes on here in the state of South Carolina. That's pretty impressive.
Absolutely. This is our 49th celebration, and one of our early executive directors, Christine Jackson, started this before the King holiday was even a holiday.
Why do you think that's so important right here in Charleston for that to happen and to be continuing?
I think the King holiday is important all over the country. I think that the ties that Christine Jackson had to the King family, being the first cousin of Coretta Scott King, made it particularly personal for her. But I would say that being a continuous 49-year celebration means that it's also very near and dear to the hearts of the Charlestonians.
And like every event here, because of the pandemic, COVID-19, this year's celebration has been adjusted a little. You've got some challenges, but everything is still full steam ahead.
Yeah, we are full steam ahead. We are doing all of our programs virtual. So we want people to tune in and log on. And as we all have been since about March, we've learned how to Zoom and Teams and all the other Skypes and things that we didn't know much about before, but we're using all of our available resources to make sure we still honor Dr. King and his dream.
Perhaps the most known part of the celebration is, of course, the parade this year, which will be
Absolutely.
virtual. And you've got a great partner with WCDB, News 2, Count On 2. They will be airing this year's parade.
They have aired the parade now for quite some time, long before my 5 years that I've been in town. But they will be airing it. It will be virtual, and we want as many video submissions as possible so that we'll have another great representation of the community. We want businesses, churches, bands, youth groups, cultural groups to just submit a video. So it'll be something that that'll live on forever.
And all those videos in some way or another should come back to the theme of this year's parade.
Absolutely. Restore the dream, repair our world. And I feel like that is a very fitting theme for where we are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking with the Executive Director of the Charleston YWCA. LaVanda Brown joins us on Lowcountry Forever. The parade may be the biggest and perhaps most well-known element of the celebration, but there are a lot of other things that you have going on.
We have our poetry slam, so we are also soliciting videos from our local poets, and that is particularly for our young people, high schools, juniors, seniors, college kids. We want to hear what our young people have to say about social justice, and we know that what we've seen in 2020 is that the young people have voice, they have opinions, so we want to hear that through their spoken word and poetry. We also have our Ecumenical worship service, which is going to be aired on Sunday. That's going to be Sunday the 17th. So we are pre-recording that at Charity Missionary Baptist Church, where Reverend Nelson Rivers is the pastor. And then we end this celebration the day after the parade, the day after the holiday, which will be Tuesday the 19th, with our MLK Summit, which has traditionally been our MLK breakfast. But given the COVID pandemic, we're going to do it virtually. And so that will run at 7:30 a.m. on Tuesday the 19th.
And this year, Anita Zucker is also involved. That's a pretty nice get. I mean, every year, the people who end up being the keynote speaker, and you can go back through the years, you've had a lot of impressive people, and so this year falls in line.
Yes. So yes, Ms. Zucker is going to be our keynote for that breakfast summit. And she has a long history of social justice and entrepreneurship and philanthropy in this community. And she really brings a great perspective, being the daughter of Holocaust survivors and having done so much work in this field of social justice. So we're really excited to hear the message that she has to bring.
And LaVanda, if you could spend a little time on this, because I think it's important. Kids growing up today, Dr. King obviously, was assassinated in the 60s. There's that disconnect that time has created but
Yes.
it's got to be encouraging that there is a swell of youth getting involved in his mission.
It is very important that we involve our young people. So much history can be lost without continuing to tell these stories. I mean, myself, I was born just after Dr. King was assassinated, so I never really had that opportunity to do the things that my parents did, the marches and things like that. But I heard a lot of the stories, listened to a lot of the speeches. So it's important to me that our young people are not only hear the stories, but that we ask them for their voice. That's what the Youth Poetry Slam and Speak Out is all about. It's about wanting to hear their voice and wanting them to be a part of the movement, not just that they hear the stories as if it were something of the past, because we're still working towards the dream.
And a lot of what we find in the maybe stereotype of younger people is, they don't have time for this stuff. They're just on their devices, on the internet. So it's good to see that that response is coming from that part of the community.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the young people have a lot to say. And every year I'm blown away by the poetry and the spoken word and just the thoughtfulness and the heart of these young people. And they are looking to us for leadership and guidance. And so I think they want it more than we may think they do. And so giving them that platform is just the beginning to opening that door for them.
The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is coming up on Monday, January 18th. We're talking with LaVanda Brown. She's the executive director of the Charleston YWCA. Let me take a little left-hand turn here for a second, because YMCA, YWCA, there was a point where these organizations were huge in our community, and I think they've faded off a little bit. And I think there's some people who may not recognize or realize that there's a very strong YWCA here in Charleston.
We have actually been in this community more than 113 years. So we have been here during segregation. We've been here through the fight towards integration. We've been here when the economy was up and down, and when the peninsula looked one way and now it looks a different way. So we've been here for quite some time, and we have consistently been working towards building equitable systems, eliminating racism, and empowering women in the Tri-County.
And let's look at it from both angles. Who can be helped by the YWCA, and who can help the YWCA?
I think it's everyone can be helped and help. So like I said, with our young people, we have programs for our young girls. We have a Y Girls Code program where we teach young girls not only the coding and the technical aspect of a career that they could earn a livable wage, but it's a lot about sisterhood and empowerment and self-esteem building. So there's a lot of mentorship there, not only from our adults, but also from college students. So that's the young and the older working together. Our She Strong program is a youth leadership program for girls. And we do some Own the Room, which is a public speaking platform for women, particularly young women and girls. So there's that. Then our Racial Equity Institute is for everyone. We particularly like to target our corporate leaders who actually can impact system change. So we do training around how to build equitable systems and how to have equitable practices so that we can eliminate these disparities.
And like every other organization, you've been affected in a number of different ways by COVID-19, including not being able to have events, not being able to fundraise, but people can still donate and help out the YWCA.
When the pandemic hit, of course, our doors, just like everyone else's, had to shut, which we thought would be for a brief period of time. And we learned it's not the case. So we saw an extreme decrease in our funding. Even some of our grants that we had been getting consistently weren't able to fund us just because they themselves weren't, people were losing, even investments, like foundations were losing money. So their abilities to give were impacted. So that impacted us. People weren't able to go to work. So, we've seen some improvements as things have opened. We've also seen some new opportunities as the light has been shown on the social justice and the inequities as it relates to Blacks and whites in the community. So we have seen some other opportunities for some funding. So we're really appreciative of just being able to stay alive and continue to offer services. And luckily, we did not have to lay off any of our staff. So our folks are still out there. We've learned to do it all virtual, but the services are very much still needed. So
wow.
we're happy for that.
Well, that's fantastic that you haven't had to lay anybody out. With all the upcoming events surrounding the MLK holiday, are there still some sponsorship availabilities?
There are sponsorship availabilities. YWCAGC.org is our website. Probably the first thing you'll see when you go there is how to sponsor. So we are certainly looking for corporate sponsorship, anyone who is interested in supporting the work that we do. All the funds that are raised during this time help us provide services like our youth empowerment, our anti-racism training, and all of our, self-esteem and equitable system work that we're doing in the community. So, and this year, we're not having in-person events. So the funds that we raise will really be able to make even a greater impact because we're, not having to rent venues and things like that.
And we have some deadlines coming up for people who want to participate in the Youth Poetry Slam. And also if you want to submit a video for the parade, those deadlines are fast approaching. That
is Monday the 11th. And those videos can be submitted to counton2.com/MLK Day. And it's all right there. And we would love to have lots and lots and lots of videos. And WCBD is going to do a fantastic job producing that video.
And then people who want to watch the virtual parade will be able to do so on MLK Day.
On MLK Day from 12 to 1.
If it wasn't a virtual parade, where would you be when the parade would start?
Right in the beginning, in the cold, on the float.
Cold?
With all of our YWCA board members and staff dressed in our persimmon, which is orange color that we use in our logo. And we'd be going down King Street right at about 10 o'clock with 200 other floats and bands and marching folks behind us.
I guess that's got to be one of the toughest things because normally there's such a great participation over, 200 floats and thousands of people lining the streets. It does take away a little bit from the event.
It absolutely does. And we've noticed that as we've learned to do things more virtually, that it is harder to bring those feelings and those emotions into it. But I've seen people do some really creative things. And I feel like the Charleston community can be creative and really bring the heart to these videos. And we're going to get through this. This isn't going to last forever.
Right.
And we'll get through it. And, hopefully next year or the year after that, we'll be back lining the streets and in the cold, braving the weather, but still just celebrating Dr. King. And hopefully we'll be even that much closer to his dream being a reality.
And with this year's MLK celebration, you've actually added one new event. Tell me about that.
We are having a MLK Blood Drive. That is going to be on January the 14th at the Rock Church. It's the Revelation of Christ Church, 1473 Remount Road. And that is really because African-American community has been disproportionately impacted by not only COVID, but many health disparities. And we still lag behind others in our donor base for blood. So we need blood, and it's very important that people of color give blood. And so we really hope that anyone, not just people of color, that anyone would come out to the blood drive. But we really wanted to do this during MLK week because we know that people are really paying attention to what's going on in the world of social justice and, what is needed in the African-American community during this time. So we certainly need blood, and we are partnering with the American Red Cross and the Revelation of Christ Church to bring that mobile blood drive on Thursday, January 14th.
And for people who want to get some information about all this and the YWCA itself, I guess the best place to do is go to the website.
Yep, YWCAGC.org. It's all there, and we update it daily. So if anything changes as we add new links and new registrations, it'll be all right there. But the parade sign up is there. The sign up for the summit is there. So yeah.
She's LaVanda Brown, the Executive Director of the Charleston YWCA, our guest on this edition of Lowcountry Forever. Remember, if you'd like to participate in this year's MLK Celebration Parade on Monday, January 18th, the parade will be virtual this year. It'll air between noon and 1 on Monday, January 18th. But as LaVanda said, the entry submission deadline is January 11th, and that's tomorrow. You can get information on counton2.com/MLK. And also, for more information on the YMCA of Greater Charleston, go to their website. That web address is YWCAGC, YWCA Again, YWCAGC.org for information about the YWCA of Greater Charleston. Also, keep in mind that with Black History Month coming up starting February 1st, the Charleston Radio Group stations are asking for your nominations, asking for you to tell us about local Black history makers in the Lowcountry. Submit your story about the local Black history maker you know at star997.com, at 993thebox.com, at heavenfmradio.com, or at mix959.com. Submit your local Black history leader information as soon as possible. Our tributes to those local Black history makers will begin airing on Monday, February 1st.
The Charleston Radio Group is the Lowcountry. Every week, we highlight local organizations and events that are helping to make a difference here where we live. If you have a group, event, or an idea to feature on Lowcountry Forever, let us know. Visit lowcountryforever.com and click on our podcast link for contact information. Now, Lowcountry Forever continues.
The Formation Project. That's what we're discussing today on Lowcountry Forever. I'm Brian Cleary, joined by the founder of the Formation Project, Kat Wehunt. And Kat, people may not have heard of the Formation Project or know what you do. So how would you describe your organization?
We're a nonprofit, and we provide direct services to survivors of human trafficking in the Tri-County area. That is mainly what we do in a nutshell. I'm a survivor myself, and so we're a survivor-led organization providing just comprehensive services to people getting out of trafficking experiences.
I think the first thing that people might react to is human trafficking. That's down at the United States-Mexican border. That's in California. That's in New York. Human trafficking, that's not here in the Lowcountry. Obviously, it is.
I hear that so often, and human trafficking is in every neighborhood, in every city, in every town, and especially here. It is a horrific problem in South Carolina, and actually Charleston, we're in the top 5 cities in the state for trafficking.
Wow. So I think people will have in their mind the movie Taken, and that's human trafficking. That's not really, certainly it's part of it, but how would you define human trafficking, and especially how it relates to what's going on here in the Lowcountry?
I myself actually identified human trafficking with the movie Taken, and for as long as I can remember, right? And that's the only kind of picture displayed by the media for us to define that by. And so actually myself was being trafficked and didn't identify myself as a trafficking survivor until I started working in this movement. And I'm sitting in a training and they're explaining how trafficking is just simply force, fraud, and coercion, and people taking it. And I'm, oh my gosh, that was me. I was being trafficked. And so it's any time that somebody, and this is for people above 18, but the definition is there's force, fraud, or coercion taking place to get somebody to do a commercial sex act, right? They're exploiting them. And that happens so often. And you don't have to leave your state, your city, across any borders to be trafficked. You can be trafficked in the same house you grew up in.
We're talking with Kat Wehunt, and Kat is the founder of the Formation Project, and we're talking about human trafficking on Lowcountry Forever. Now, if you yourself weren't able to initially diagnose isn't the word, but understand that trafficking was going on, obviously that's got to be a huge challenge so that people know that, oh my gosh, this is actually happening.
Absolutely. When I realized that was what I had been through, and I was kind of angry that people didn't identify me sooner. And then I realized we're all thinking that it's the movie Taken, and we're missing it. Kids and young adults and adults they're falling through the cracks because we are looking for people in a cargo, ship or being taken across borders, and we're not looking for the people that are living next door to us.
It still has to be surprising for people listening today to hear that South Carolina and the Lowcountry area, we rank so high on something that obviously we want to be at the bottom of the list. Is there something or some things in particular that make Charleston and the Lowcountry an area that is more susceptible to trafficking?
Yeah, absolutely. We're a hotspot for tourism, and we have a huge port here. and it brings people. And we have so many colleges here. And so all of those things definitely drive the trafficking, but it is happening in every city in South Carolina for sure. It's way more common, I think, than people realize.
And Kat, we're talking with you today in part because January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And what can be done? What are you guys doing locally to raise the awareness of this issue?
This month, we're really trying to spread awareness, get people talking about the issue, realizing that it's not just like the movies and the media are telling us that it's happening. It's so much more common. And so sharing with people what to look for and what it looks like in your own city, in your neighborhood, is definitely a focus for us this month. We're also going to be opening a drop-in center. And so that has been something to celebrate and something that we're working with so many community partners to do, to make sure that we have a spot for victims to go to when they are able to escape their trafficking circumstances.
So if someone's a parent, they have a son or a daughter, are there signs that they should be looking for in terms of what is going on with their children that may start to think that could be happening to them?
There are absolutely signs. Being withdrawn or a change of friend group. There are so many signs, but it's not always indicative of trafficking. It's more of something's wrong here. And what I encourage parents to do is, as soon as you're having that gut feeling of something's not right, I think the biggest thing is opening up honest conversation with your kids and being able to have conversation about hard topics and things that are happening. So your kid feels open and feels like they're able to come to you with things that are going on in their life. I think an open communication is the first step to prevention, really.
So for people that are listening to Lowcountry Forever today, Kat, what is it that you would hope that they maybe can be doing to help?
Great question. First thing is awareness. So getting to know what the issue looks like and realizing that it's not somebody being taken across state lines, although that does happen. Learning about the more common ways that people are being trafficked. Kids are being trafficked in high school, and traffickers are using peers to recruit other peers. Just starting to learn about the issue and then spreading awareness is huge. I mean, that's definitely a first big step people can get involved with.
So the trafficking that we see in the media and things where somebody's taken across state lines or across the border happens, but what you're saying is that a small percentage or just a smaller percentage of the overall trafficking that we hear?
It's a small percentage, absolutely. Most of the women and men, we serve men as well, that are coming to me that I'm able to serve, some of them have never left the county that they were born in, but they were being trafficked. Their mom was pimping them out for rent money or to make sure that they had food that night. And so that is more common and the circumstances that I see more often, an intimate partner, a relationship that someone gets into, and then the boundaries are so slowly pushed and the commercial aspect of the sex industry is introduced, right? And so that's more common what I'm seeing.
And I would have to assume that if it's happening, as you say, in a family sense where, hey, we need to pay the rent and it's not the right way to do it, but this is the way that's accomplished, that must be so much harder for that person being trafficked to deal with, because it's not hey, the bad guy has taken the girl and is making her do bad things. This is someone in your family.
Absolutely. This issue is one of the most complex issues, right? And when I got out of my trafficking experience, I identified with sexual assault, domestic violence, addiction, those type of things, but not realizing that trafficking encompasses all of those things. So many different crimes. And so it can be so much more complex than people realize, especially introducing your family into that. It's so difficult, but also so common.
On Lowcountry Forever today, we're talking with Kat Wehunt. She is the founder of the Formation Project, and January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Kat, let's talk about right here in the Lowcountry, the Formation Project. What is it that you need? How can people help the organization?
First thing is follow us on social media, get to know, get on our website. We are always hosting active engagement events that are just alternative options for people to get involved other than just giving money, which of course fundraising and that need is huge, but showing up to some of our awareness events or coming to a training or following some of the information and myth busters that we're posting online. Those are all ways you can get involved. And we're always looking for volunteers as well. So you can sign up on our website.
If someone is interested in volunteering and giving you some of their time, is there age requirements? What are you looking for?
We have many different options for volunteering. And so we'll plug in based on individual needs and strengths for sure. So any and all ages are welcome, and you can fill out a form on our website and we'll reach out to you.
And it would seem, because you mentioned training, it would seem that training would be huge, but I guess there's got to be a couple of different things you're training for, right? Because you're training people to be aware of what's going on, and then I guess dealing with folks who may be involved in trafficking, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, one of the biggest gaps and needs, especially in this pandemic, is our survivors are isolated and lonely and often pulled out from their environment. And so having advocates, which our advocates go through, extensive training to be able to provide direct services and work with our survivors. But those are people who come along survivors just to do joy building activities, right? Check in on them a couple times a week, encourage them to keep on with their goals and things like that. And yes, the training is extensive.
Is there a typical profile for someone who gets involved in trafficking, or does it really cross races, sex, income boundaries?
There is one common link that I see in every person that I've ever encountered that's been through trafficking, and it's vulnerabilities. And so it's especially a collection of vulnerabilities, right? So people coming out of foster home, people coming out of or who are involved with family court or have a broken family life or have prior addiction or mental health issues. Traffickers are seeking those most vulnerable, right? And they're exploiting our community's most vulnerable. So that is the one common denominator that I see in victims.
And has the amount, if that's the right word, of human trafficking, I'm just still so surprised and stunned, although the reasons you lay out make sense, that Charleston, the Lowcountry, is so high on that list. Is that something that's remained prevalent? Has it been growing, or have we actually peaked and are now on the downside?
We, I would say, are still in infancy stages in this anti-trafficking movement. And so we've made, huge strides statewide on this level. However, we're receiving an increase of referrals monthly. It's just, and I think the reason being is people are knowing what to look for. So we're identifying more victims. And so I think that that'll stable out here shortly. But for now, it is an ever-growing our caseloads are full. We are getting calls left and right.
And ideally, the Formation Project's goal would be to go out of business, but you're busier than ever now. So we need to get the information to folks. Let's start, first of all, with the website. If somebody wants to go online and find you, where can they?
You can find us at theformationproject.org.
And then your social media sites. So obviously you're on Facebook and everything?
Yeah, we're on Facebook and Instagram, and that's also at the Formation Project. So please give us a follow and keep up with what we're working on.
Now, is there any type of hotline or any number that people who are in need should be calling, or is it just to go online?
Yes, there is a national human trafficking hotline, and anyone can call that number. And that is the best way. If you see a potential red flag or something that's concerning you, please give that number a call, and they will funnel that tip line into us.
And so people can help out in a number of different ways right now. Donations are one way, volunteering and helping out, and also training that you provide so folks are able to then recognize what actually may be happening right in front of them.
The more we can talk about this issue, I think the less prevalent it will be.
And Kat, you do have one other need that you have more on a business standpoint.
We are working really hard to locate office space for a drop-in center right now. So if anyone has potential office space that they think would be a good fit, please reach out.
And Kate, you actually have some fundraising opportunities coming up at the end of the month with some Lowcountry businesses.
Yes, we actually have a couple different, what we call active activism opportunities. One's Mod Pizza at the end of the month is giving 20% of online pizza orders to us. And then Mellow Mushroom is also going to be doing an event for us. And we'll be posting the time and details on our social media and our website.
And that website address is theformationproject.org. theformationproject.org. You'll be able to get that information on those upcoming events, plus find out about the Formation Project, who they are, and what they do. theformationproject.org. Kat Wehunt is the founder of the Formation Project, joining us this morning on Lowcountry Forever. I'm Brian Cleary. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Lowcountry Forever. If you missed any of this week's show, there's a complete recording under the podcast link at lowcountryforever.com. Lowcountry Forever is a public affairs presentation of the Charleston Radio Group.